There are so many fascinating stories in American history, and a Grand Rapids entrepreneur is sharing many of them in his first book, not in prose, but poetry. It is a celebration of where we've come from and a reflection of what it means to be an American. The book, called Red, White, and Verse. The author, Greg McNeely, he joins us this morning to share more about his inspiration. Greg, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about your journey and how you got into writing poetry.
Well, I started in school, back in high school, I was writing some poetry. Fell out of it for a while, but then got back into it and been scribbling for several years. But the inspiration for this book was really my kids. I wanted to find a unique way to get them to fall in love with our country.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about it, because it is kind of like a love letter to America, really, and your inspiration there.
It's intended to be. So Red, White, and Verse, it's 58 poems about America's people, places, and events. So iconic figures like George Washington or Harriet Tubman, Clare Boothe Luce, all of those, but also places that we care about. The Grand Canyon, one of my favorites, the Great Lakes, a poem called The Five Sisters. And then also events that we cherish that tie us together: Memorial Day, Thanksgiving, 4th of July.
Okay, wonderful. And so this has obviously been kind of a labor of love a little bit. I mean, you're a businessman, and this is kind of, talk about the process for you. Obviously, it's taken some time, right?
It has. I just scribble a lot, usually on my phone. Sometimes I'll find myself between meetings and trying to rhyme a phrase or a word, or just noodling on it. My poor family has to hear me walk around talking to myself. So it's a process.
Yeah, and look, talk about the book too, because there's lots of illustrations, and we kind of talked about how someone might want to read it slowly. Just take it all in, one page at a time.
Yeah, it's not a speed read. So poetry, at least for me, is something that you take in slowly, and you read one or two a day and think about it. Your poems are best heard. So even if you're by yourself, reading them out loud, so you hear the rhythm, you feel the beat or the meter of the verse. That's the best way to ingest them. Wonderful.
Any favorites that stick out in your head that you really, I know it's hard, they're all your babies, right?
Yeah. So there's one that's about a journalist called Contrarian Song, and it's about a journalist, H.L. Mencken, who was about 100 years ago. I really like that one because he played a lot with ideas, sometimes unpopular, and his life journey sort of spoke to me.
Sure. I like that you say you wrote this for your kids, too, because you want to make this history a little more digestible, a little more exciting, maybe, to read. Talk about what you hope people take away from this book.
I hope if they have fallen out of love with our country, I hope they fall back in love. And if they are in love, I hope it quickens that romance. We are an amazing country, and it's a little unpopular these days, but we should love this country. We're not perfect. We make mistakes, but we're so great because we're always getting better. Whatever's wrong, we eventually fix it. And that's what's great about this country. And I just want people to love America and get back to where that's the cool thing, loving our country.
Absolutely. And, history repeats itself, so it's good to know what happened, right?
Absolutely. We can always learn, right? Because as humans, we don't change. So learning from our experiences is very helpful.
Absolutely. So are you going to do any readings? Are you going to show up around town and start
I don't know.
sharing?
I might be a little too shy to do some reading. I'm trying to get my kids to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
7, 6, and 4.
Oh, my gosh.
So we have a busy household.
Absolutely. So then they all love it? They all love
Sometimes they roll their eyes when they're all, oh, Davy Crockett. I'm like, I got a poem for that. And they're like, yeah, of course you do, Dad. So, they're getting a little tired of it.
Wait till you have teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
And the coolest part about this book is sold out in many places right now.
It has. That's been so humbling. So the publisher, I don't think, anticipated the response. And we've had to be rushing new books out to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, the different places you can get it online. So get your copy before they're gone. Red, White, and Verse.
Okay, perfect. What's next for you? You're going to keep putting those poems in your phone?
Yeah, I've never stopped. So there may be another one coming, but it'll be a couple years.
Okay, wonderful. Well, gosh, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and for sharing your poetry with the world. You want to learn more about the book, about Greg, mcneely.com/redwhiteverse.html. Do you guys have a list to get on there if people want to get the book?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some links there they can order the book.
Perfect. Wonderful, Greg. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back.